I thought the worst moment of my life was finding my wife in bed with two men, but the truth I uncovered after that was even more devastating. This isn't just a story about betrayal, it's about the wreckage that comes after and the fight to rebuild when everything falls apart. My name's Brian, and my wife, let's call her Laura, and I have been married for 5 years now. We met back in college, one of those classic stories where the shy guy somehow catches the attention of the girl everyone's talking about. Laura was magnetic, beautiful, confident, and always the center of attention. I'll be honest, I never quite understood what she saw in me. I'm just your average guy, working in finance to keep our lives stable. Nothing flashy, but it gets the job done. Like any couple, we've had our fair share of ups and downs, nothing that seemed out of the ordinary. Just the usual debates over work stress, social commitments, or how to spend our money. Lately, though, something feels different. Laura has always been outgoing, but now there's a distance between us I can't explain. She's spending more time on her phone, working late nights, and planning these trips with her friends. I told myself it was just her adjusting to her demanding job. She's a lawyer, and the hours can be brutal. So, I decided to give her the space she seemed to need and tried to be supportive. But no matter how much I tried to brush it off, I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. About a month ago, Laura suggested we take a weekend trip together, just the two of us. She said it would be a chance to reconnect, and honestly, I jumped at the idea. A couple of days in a secluded cabin in the mountains sounded like exactly what we needed. I thought maybe this trip would be the reset button we both seemed to need. The morning of the trip, I was cautiously optimistic. Maybe I'd been overthinking things, letting my worries spiral. Laura was in an unusually good mood, almost too cheerful, really. But I chalked it up to her being excited for the getaway. I told myself to relax and enjoy the time together. The drive to the cabin was beautiful. The winding roads were lined with vibrant fall colors, and Laura kept the conversation flowing as she chatted about her recent work projects. For a little while, I convinced myself that maybe I'd just imagined the tension between us. But even in those lighter moments, small things stood out. For instance, Laura was glued to her phone the entire drive. Normally, I wouldn't think twice about it, her job requires her to stay connected. But this time, it was different. Every time she got a text, she'd laugh softly or smile at her screen, then flip her phone over so I couldn't see it. It was subtle, but something about it made my stomach twist. "Who's texting you?" I asked, trying to sound casual. "Work stuff," she replied quickly, almost too quickly. "You know how it is." I nodded, but something about her answer didn't sit right. Since when did work texts make her giggle like that? I tried to push the thought aside, we were supposed to be relaxing. The last thing I wanted was to pick a fight over what might be nothing. We arrived at the cabin around dusk, and it was just as perfect as I'd imagined, peaceful, tucked away in the woods, everything we needed to disconnect from the outside world. While I unloaded the car, Laura disappeared inside, her phone still firmly in her hand. When I finally joined her, I found her sprawled out on the couch, already scrolling through her phone again. "So, what's the plan for tonight?" I asked, hoping to spark some excitement. She looked up, her expression almost blank, like she'd forgotten I was even there. "Oh, I don't know," she said with a shrug. "Maybe we can just order in and keep it low-key." I nodded, but inside, I felt a pang of disappointment. This was supposed to be our chance to reconnect, to spend quality time together. But so far, it felt like I was the only one who cared about making it work. It wasn't the kind of evening I had pictured. I'd hoped for a chance to reconnect, to finally have those deep conversations we seemed to have lost somewhere along the way. But when Laura suggested we just order in and keep things low-key, I went along with it. I mean, I wanted this to work. Maybe I was the one holding on too tightly, and I needed to let go a little. We ordered some food, opened a bottle of wine, and settled in. On the surface, it looked like a cozy evening, but underneath, I couldn't shake this uneasy feeling. Laura wasn't really there. She was distracted. Every time her phone buzzed, she'd glance down at it, flash me this almost artificial smile, and then set it back down, screen facing the table. It felt like I was just part of the background, an afterthought in my own marriage. I tried to convince myself I was being ridiculous, that I was imagining things. It was just one night, I told myself. Tomorrow will be better. It has to be. The next morning, I got up early. I was determined to make it a good day, to set a positive tone. While Laura was still asleep, I decided to make breakfast, something simple but thoughtful. Eggs, toast, coffee, the kind of thing we used to enjoy together when things felt easier between us. As I was cooking, her phone buzzed from the nightstand in our room. It was a small thing, but the sound made my chest tighten. I tried to brush it off, to focus on flipping the eggs just right, but the unease from the night before hadn't gone anywhere. When Laura finally came out of the bedroom, she looked exhausted, like she hadn't slept much. Then again, neither had I. My mind had been racing all night, stuck on the way she seemed so absorbed in her phone while barely noticing me. "Morning," I said with a smile, trying to keep the mood light as I set the plates on the table. "Morning," she mumbled, her voice flat. She grabbed her phone before even reaching for her coffee, her thumb scrolling before I could get another word out. "Hey, I made breakfast," I said, louder this time, trying to get her attention. She looked up, her expression distant. "Oh, thanks. Looks great," she said, the words sounding empty. We sat down together, but the silence between us felt oppressive. I tried to break the tension, asking her about work, her friends, anything to get her to open up. But her answers were short, dismissive, like she was only half listening. Every few minutes, her eyes darted back to her phone, like she was waiting for a message more important than anything I could say. It was eating me alive. I tried to stay calm, but the weight of it all kept building until I couldn't hold back anymore. "Laura, is everything okay?" I asked, trying to sound casual, even though my voice betrayed me. She looked startled, like she hadn't expected me to ask. "Yeah, why wouldn't it be?" she replied, forcing a smile. "You've just seemed distant lately," I said, my voice quieter now. "It feels like you're not really here." She sighed, brushing it off. "It's just work stress, Brian. I've got a lot going on. Can we just enjoy this trip?" "You're overthinking things." "Am I?" Maybe I am, I thought. But that nagging voice in the back of my mind kept telling me otherwise. We spent the rest of the day hiking through the woods, taking in the crisp mountain air and the breathtaking scenery. But no matter how hard I tried to be present, there was this invisible wall between us. We walked side by side, but I felt miles away from her. That night, after another round of takeout and a few more glasses of wine, I caught her laughing at something on her phone again. It was subtle, but it was the same smile from the night before, the one that didn't feel like it was meant for me. "Who are you texting?" I asked, trying to keep my tone light, though I couldn't fully hide my frustration. She paused, her smile fading for just a moment before she put her phone down. "Nobody. It's just work stuff, like I told you," she said, her voice steady but rehearsed. I didn't push her further, but the answer didn't sit right with me. It felt too perfect, too polished. She was hiding something, I was sure of it. The next morning, I woke up feeling worse than ever. There was this pit in my stomach that wouldn't go away, this sense that something terrible was just around the corner. Laura was already up, sitting by the window with her coffee and, of course, her phone. She looked peaceful in the morning light, but seeing her so engrossed in that little screen made my heart sink. I couldn't escape the thought that whatever was on that phone had stolen her from me. And for the first time, I started to wonder if I really wanted to find out what it was. I tried to shake off the doubt gnawing at me. Maybe I'm just overthinking it, letting my own insecurities get the better of me. But the harder I try to convince myself, the more it feels like a lie. Something isn't right. I can feel it in my gut, and no amount of rationalizing can make it go away. Morning, I say, forcing a cheerful tone as I walk over and kiss Laura lightly on the top of her head. Morning, she mutters, her eyes glued to her phone. She barely acknowledges me, and it stings more than I want to admit. Any plans for today? I ask, trying to inject some normalcy into the awkwardness. Deep down, I'm bracing for another day of shallow conversations and the feeling that I'm competing with her phone for attention. Laura finally looks up, setting her phone down with an air of reluctance. I was thinking we could drive into town. There's this little cafe I read about and some shops that might be fun to check out. It sounds like a nice idea, the kind of thing we used to enjoy. But there's something off in her tone, like she's trying to steer the day in a direction that keeps things easy, superficial. It feels calculated. Sure, I reply, hoping that a change of scenery might help shake off this tension. Maybe if we're out and about, I can get out of my own head and stop obsessing over every little thing she says or does. The drive into town is surprisingly pleasant. Laura seems more engaged, pointing out quaint storefronts and charming houses along the way. For the first time in days, it feels like we're connecting again. I start to think that maybe I've been wrong, that all this uneasiness is just my imagination running wild. We settle into a cozy corner of the cafe, sipping our drinks and soaking in the laid-back atmosphere. I'm starting to relax, until her phone buzzes. I watch as Laura glances at the screen. That smile flashes across her face again, the one I've come to dread. It's subtle but unmistakable, and before I can even process it, she flips her phone over and sets it face down on the table. I can't hold back anymore. Who keeps texting you, Laura? I ask, my voice sharper than I intend. I feel like I'm barely here with you this weekend. You've been glued to your phone the whole time. Her eyes widen, caught off guard, but she recovers quickly, forcing a smile. It's nobody, Brian. Just some work stuff. Can we not make this a big deal? We're supposed to be relaxing. But I've had enough of the deflections. Work stuff doesn't make you smile like that, I say, my voice quieter now, steadier. I'm not stupid. Something's going on, and I think I deserve to know. For a split second, her expression shifts. There's something calculating in her eyes, like she's weighing her next move. Then she leans forward, placing her hand over mine. Brian, you're being paranoid, she says softly, her tone calm and soothing, but somehow that only unsettles me more. I told you, it's just work. I don't know why you're acting like this. Her words feel rehearsed, practiced. The ease with which she brushes off my concern sends a chill down my spine. I pull my hand away, trying to steady my breathing. I don't believe you, I say quietly, the words spilling out before I can stop them. I think you're hiding something. Laura's face hardens, the softness gone in an instant. She leans back in her chair, crossing her arms. Fine, she says coolly. If you don't trust me, I don't know what else to say. The conversation dies right there. We finish our drinks in tense silence, and for the first time since we arrived, I feel completely alone. When we get back to the cabin, Laura heads straight for the bedroom, muttering something about needing a nap. I slump onto the couch, staring out at the trees as my thoughts spiral. I replay every odd moment from the past few weeks, every forced smile and hollow excuse. The pieces are there, but I can't make them fit together. Then it hits me, her phone. I know it's wrong, but the uncertainty is eating me alive. I need answers. Her phone is right there on the coffee table, abandoned for the first time in days. My heart pounds as I pick it up, my hands trembling. Her passcode hasn't changed, and for a second, I hesitate, the weight of what I'm about to do pressing down on me. But then I think about the smiles, the laughter, the way she's been slipping further and further away from me. I need to know the truth, no matter how much it hurts. I unlock the phone and start scrolling through her messages, my breath shallow and uneven. At first, there's nothing unusual. Work texts, group chats with her friends, a few spam notifications, it all seems normal. And then I find it. As I scroll through the message thread, my stomach twists into knots. It's saved under an emoji, no name, no identifying details. But the conversation doesn't leave much to the imagination. Flirty, playful, intimate, it's obvious this isn't some harmless chat with a coworker. My hands tremble as I keep reading, each message hitting me like a sucker punch. Inside jokes. Plans to meet up. Phrases like, I miss you, and, can't wait to see you again. I don't even make it to the bottom of the thread. I can't. My chest feels tight, and my vision blurs with tears. This is it, the moment everything I've been trying to ignore comes crashing down around me. I set the phone down, staring blankly at the wall. My mind is a whirlwind of emotions, anger, betrayal, confusion. I want to confront her right now, to demand answers. But I feel frozen, paralyzed by the weight of what I've just uncovered. She's still in the bedroom, probably asleep, blissfully unaware of the storm raging inside me. I sit on the couch, head in my hands, trying to piece together my thoughts. How did we get here? Was I blind, or did she just get better at hiding this side of her? After what feels like hours, I can't stand being in the cabin anymore. The walls feel like they're closing in, and I need air, something to clear my head. I remember the pool by the reception area and decide to head down. Maybe a swim will calm my nerves, or at least give me a moment to think straight. As I walk toward the reception area, I spot her before she notices me. Laura is leaning on the counter, talking to the receptionist, a guy in his early 30s with an easy smile. They're laughing, and she's twirling her hair in that way she used to when we first met. There's a lightness in her body language, an energy that feels too familiar. I stop in my tracks, my heart sinking. It's like watching a scene unfold that I don't want to be a part of. My mind races with questions, am I overreacting? Is this innocent? But then I see the way she looks at him, and it hits me. That spark in her eyes, it's the same one she used to have for me. I take a deep breath, trying to steady myself, and walk over, forcing a smile onto my face. Hey, what's going on? Laura startles slightly, straightening up. Oh, hey. I was just asking about some things to do around here, she says casually, though her voice carries a hint of tension. She gestures toward the guy. This is Ryan. He's been really helpful. Ryan gives me a polite nod. Hey, man. I was just recommending some spots for you two to check out while you're here. I nod back, forcing my face to stay neutral even as jealousy claws at my chest. That's great, I say, but my voice comes out sharper than I intended. Laura picks up on it immediately, her eyes narrowing. What's with the tone? She asks, her annoyance already building. You're acting weird. I'm not acting weird, I say, though I can feel my control slipping. I don't know, you just seemed really into whatever he was saying. Her jaw tightens, and she scoffs. Oh my God, Brian. Seriously? He's the receptionist. We were talking about places to visit, that's it. Don't make this into something it's not. Ryan looks uncomfortable now, his smile faltering as he shifts awkwardly. I realize I'm making a scene and feel a wave of embarrassment. Yeah, of course, I say quickly, my tone softer. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make it weird. Laura huffs, clearly exasperated, and turns back to Ryan with a bright but clipped smile. Thanks for the suggestions. I think we'll check them out later. She grabs my arm, her grip firm, and steers me toward the pool area. I can feel her frustration radiating off her, but I'm too drained to care. As soon as we're out of earshot, she stops and rounds on me, her eyes blazing. What the hell was that about? She snaps, her voice low but sharp. I struggle to find the right words, my emotions swirling between anger and guilt. I don't know, I mumble, though I know that's not true. I didn't like the way you were acting. She throws her hands up in exasperation. What are you even talking about? You're reading way too much into this, Brian. He's the receptionist. Are you really this insecure? Her words cut deep, and I take a step back, swallowing hard. It's not about him, I say quietly, the weight of everything pressing down on me. It's about us. Something's not right, Laura, and you know it. For a moment, she just stares at me, her expression unreadable. Then she shakes her head, her voice cold. You're imagining things. If you can't trust me, then that's on you. She turns and walks away, leaving me standing there by the pool, feeling more lost than ever. I watch her go, my chest heavy with the realization that I might already know the truth, I just don't want to admit it to myself. I don't know, I mutter, dragging a hand through my hair, frustration bubbling under the surface. It looked like you were flirting. Flirting? Laura lets out a bitter laugh, the kind that makes me feel small. Jesus, Brian. He's the receptionist. Do you even hear yourself right now? What do you think is going to happen? I don't have an answer. My mind is a chaotic swirl of thoughts, none of which I can articulate. Am I spiraling? Reading too much into everything? Maybe I am. You're right, I mumble, my voice barely audible. I'm sorry. She exhales sharply, shaking her head. You need to get a grip. You've been acting weird this whole trip, and honestly, it's exhausting. Her words sting, but I don't respond. What could I say to that? I nod weakly and keep walking toward the pool, feeling like I've just surrendered another battle I didn't even know I was fighting. I tell myself to let it go. It's nothing. A misunderstanding, blown out of proportion. But as we reach the pool, her laugh with Ryan replays in my head, the easy way she tilted toward him, the light in her eyes that I haven't seen in ages. I dive into the water, hoping the chill will shock my thoughts into submission. I swim a few laps, trying to focus on the rhythm of my strokes, but the tension clings to me. No matter how hard I try, I can't shake the memory of her demeanor with Ryan. It was subtle but unmistakable, something shifted in her that I can't ignore. I want to believe her. I want to trust her. But something deep down keeps gnawing at me, a truth I don't want to face. Later that afternoon, we decide to head back to the reception area to book an excursion, a one-night camping trip in the mountains. It's something I've been looking forward to, a chance to escape the noise in my head and reconnect with Laura. If ever there were a perfect opportunity to hit reset, this would be it. As we approach the desk, I notice a different guy standing there. He's younger than Ryan, probably late 20s, with messy hair and a laid-back vibe. Before I can say anything, I catch the way Laura's face changes. Her whole demeanor brightens, her eyes lighting up in a way I haven't seen in months. Charlie, she says, her voice full of surprise and excitement. Charlie. The name doesn't ring a bell. The guy looks up from his computer, and his face breaks into a wide grin. Emily. No way, what are you doing here? Before I can process what's happening, he leans across the counter and plants a kiss on her cheek. It's casual, but the familiarity between them makes my stomach churn. I stand there, feeling like an intruder in my own life. My rational side tells me this could be innocent, friends greet each other like this all the time. But something about the ease between them sets off alarms I can't ignore. Oh, just getting away for a bit, Laura says, laughing. She's practically glowing, her voice warm and full of life. It's like seeing him has brought her out of the fog she's been in all weekend. Meanwhile, I feel like a shadow, invisible and out of place. I clear my throat, trying to break the spell. So, you two know each other? Laura finally turns to me, her smile faltering as she catches the look on my face. Yeah, Charlie's an old friend from college. I didn't even know he worked here. Small world, huh? Charlie says, still grinning. He turns to me and extends a hand. And you must be Brian. Nice to meet you, man. I force a smile and shake his hand, though my grip is a little tighter than necessary. Yeah, nice to meet you too. The exchange feels polite but loaded. Charlie's still beaming, clearly thrilled to see Laura. And her reaction. I don't know if I'm imagining things, but the way she looks at him, it's like she's forgotten I'm standing here. Wow, it's been forever, Laura says, her tone almost wistful. How long have you been working here? About a year, Charlie replies. It's not exactly what I planned after college, but hey, it's a good gig for now. Pays the bills, you know. She laughs, and the sound feels like a knife twisting in my chest. Well, it's great to see you. I mean, what are the odds, right? I stand there silently, my jaw clenched as the two of them fall into an easy rhythm. It's like I'm watching a version of Laura I haven't seen in years, a version that's carefree, open, and, not with me. Finally, Charlie turns his attention back to the computer. So, what can I do for you two? Laura gestures toward me. We were thinking about booking the camping trip, she says, her voice still light and breezy. Charlie nods and starts typing something into his system. Great choice. It's an amazing spot. You'll love it. I murmur my agreement, but my mind is elsewhere, spinning in circles as I try to make sense of what just happened. As we finalize the booking, I can't shake the image of Charlie's grin, or the way Laura lit up when she saw him. Part of me wants to shrug it off, to tell myself it's just a coincidence, an old friend from another life. But another part of me, the one that's been screaming at me all weekend, knows better. Something isn't right. And the worst part is, I don't know if I want to find out what it is. I shake Charlie's hand, doing my best to play it cool, but my mind is racing. Who is this guy to Laura? Why didn't she ever mention him before? And why did he seem so comfortable kissing her on the cheek like that? Yeah, nice to meet you, I say, forcing a smile that feels as fake as it looks. We were actually hoping to book a camping trip for tonight. Heard it's a great way to take in the mountains. Absolutely. Charlie says, slipping back into professional mode as he pulls up some details on his computer. As he walks us through the itinerary, I can't stop glancing at Laura. She's still smiling, her demeanor light and relaxed, but now that my jealousy is fully awake, every little move she makes feels suspicious. When we finish booking the trip, we head back to the cabin to pack for the night. I'm trying to hold it in, trying to keep my mouth shut, but my thoughts are eating me alive. Why didn't she tell me about this guy? And what's the story with the kiss? It feels like I'm missing something. Finally, as we're packing, I can't take it anymore. So, you and Charlie seem close, I say, trying to keep my tone casual but failing miserably. Laura doesn't even look up as she rolls her eyes. Brian, don't start. He's just an old friend. There's nothing to worry about. I hesitate, unsure if I should push. It's just. I don't know. The kiss on the cheek threw me off. It felt. I don't know, intimate. She sighs heavily, clearly annoyed now. He's European, Brian. That's just how they are. European? That's news to me. Since when was Charlie European? Before I can process it, Laura's already moved on, zipping up her bag like the conversation is over. I drop it again, feeling that familiar sting of defeat. Every time I bring something up, I end up feeling like the bad guy, as if I'm unreasonable for questioning things. But no matter how hard I try to convince myself otherwise, the uneasiness won't let go. Later that afternoon, we head out for the camping trip. It's supposed to be a simple overnight stay in the mountains, hiking, stargazing, and a night in tents. The perfect chance to disconnect and, hopefully, reconnect. I tell myself to enjoy it, to stop overthinking everything. The drive into the mountains is stunning. The sun is dipping lower in the sky, casting golden light over the rugged terrain. Laura chats away about the scenery, pointing out the peaks and trees, but I'm barely listening. My mind is stuck on the interaction with Charlie, replaying it over and over. The way she laughed with him, the way she brushed me off, it all feels like pieces of a puzzle I can't put together. We reach the campsite just as the sun is setting. The guide helps us set up the tents, and for a little while, I start to feel like maybe this trip will do us good. The crisp mountain air, the quiet of nature, it's exactly what I need to clear my head. As the stars begin to dot the sky, Laura and I sit by the campfire. It's peaceful, and for the first time in a long time, she's not glued to her phone. We talk about work, the trip, even some memories from when we first started dating. For a moment, it feels like we're ourselves again. I start to believe, just a little, that maybe things aren't as bad as they seem. But just as the night winds down, Laura shifts in her seat, wincing slightly. "You okay?" I ask, noticing her discomfort. She sighs, rubbing her lower back. "I don't know. My back's been bothering me all day. I thought it would go away, but it's just getting worse." A wave of concern washes over me. "Why didn't you say something earlier? You should have rested." She shakes her head, forcing a weak smile. "I didn't want to ruin the trip." I offer to help her lie down, maybe get comfortable in the tent, but she waves me off. "I think I should go back to the cabin. The beds there will be better for my back than these sleeping bags." I hesitate, torn between staying here and making sure she's okay. "Are you sure? We can both head back if you're not feeling well." She gives me a soft smile. No. You've been looking forward to this. I don't want to cut it short for you. I'll be fine." I'm still not convinced, but before I can argue, she adds, "There's a group heading back to the cabins now. I can catch a ride with them. I'll just rest, maybe take a hot shower." Her reasoning sounds logical enough, but something feels off. I can't put my finger on it, but the way she's so quick to brush off my concern makes me hesitate. Still, I don't want to make a scene or ruin the trip. "All right," I say reluctantly. "Just text me when you get back, okay?" "Of course," she says, leaning in to kiss my cheek. "Enjoy the stars. I'll see you tomorrow." I watch her disappear into the dark with the group heading back, my chest heavy with a mix of concern and doubt. The campsite feels eerily quiet without her, and as I settle back by the fire, the uneasy feeling I've been carrying all day refuses to let go. She's right, the group of hikers we came with is packing up to head back down the mountain. It all feels perfectly reasonable. For once, I manage to quiet the voice in my head that's always questioning, always doubting. "Okay," I say at last, standing up and helping Laura gather her things. "Just let me know as soon as you get back, all right? And if you need anything, call me. Promise me." She nods, her expression softening. "I promise." As the group sets out, I watch her walk away, a small wave of unease lingering in my chest but not enough to outweigh my concern for her back. This is fine, I tell myself. She'll rest, and I'll stay here another night to clear my head. After all the tension of the last few days, maybe some space is exactly what we need. When she's gone, the campsite feels quieter, almost unnervingly so. I sit by the fire, staring into the flames as my thoughts churn. Tonight felt better, in some ways, but the tension between us hasn't disappeared entirely. I can't help but wonder if I'm the one making it worse. Maybe I've been overthinking, letting jealousy and insecurity get the better of me. It's exhausting, constantly questioning her, looking for signs where there might not be any. I want to believe her. I need to believe her. But that small, insistent voice in the back of my mind won't go away. What if she's hiding something? What if I've been right all along? I push the thoughts aside and try to focus on the stillness around me. The stars above, the cool mountain air, all of it feels grounding in a way I haven't felt in weeks. Maybe tomorrow, when I'm back at the cabin, things will be clearer. The next morning, the weather takes a sudden turn. Thick clouds roll in, and the wind begins to howl through the trees. The guide stops by and advises us to pack up early. There's a storm on the way, and it's not safe to stay out here. Reluctantly, I start packing, the excitement of the camping trip replaced by a nagging unease. I haven't heard from Laura since she left with the group last night. It's strange, but I tell myself she's probably just resting. Still, the silence is unsettling, and as I make my way down the trail, I can't shake the feeling that something's wrong. The hike back feels longer than it should. My legs move faster than usual, driven by an anxious energy I can't explain. By the time I reach the house, rain has started to fall, the wind whipping through the trees. I step inside, shaking off the dampness, and the first thing I notice is the silence. The house is still. Too still. Laura? I call out, my voice echoing in the quiet. No response. I check the living room first, expecting to find her curled up on the couch, maybe feeling better after a good night's rest. But the room is empty. I head toward the bedroom, my chest tightening with every step. The door is closed, and as I reach for the handle, I hesitate, that small voice whispering again. When I push the door open, my entire world falls apart. There she is, Laura, lying in bed. But she's not alone. There are 2 men with her. 2. My breath catches in my throat, my vision narrowing as the scene in front of me comes into focus. One of them is Charlie, the bold friend from the reception. His face is unmistakable. The other man, I don't even recognize him, sits on the opposite side of the bed. Both of them are shirtless, the blankets barely covering them, but enough to tell me exactly what's been happening. For a moment, time freezes. My mind refuses to process what I'm seeing. Then it hits me like a tidal wave. This is real. This is happening. All 3 of them freeze as the door swings open. Laura's eyes go wide, her face pale as she scrambles to sit up, clutching the sheets around her. Brian, she starts, her voice trembling. I can explain. Explain. My heart pounds so hard it feels like it might burst. My hands clench into fists at my sides as a wave of emotions crashes over me, rage, betrayal, disbelief. I take a step back, my breath shallow, my chest heaving. What the hell is this? I manage to choke out, my voice shaking. Brian, please, let me explain, Laura pleads, her voice breaking. Charlie and the other man exchange awkward glances, but neither of them speaks. They're clearly scrambling for some kind of exit, but my eyes are locked on Laura. Explain. I spit, the word laced with venom. What could you possibly say to explain this? She stares at me, her mouth opening and closing as if searching for words. It's not what it looks like. Not what it looks like. My voice rises, the sheer absurdity of her words fueling my anger. You're in bed with 2 men, Laura. What else could it possibly be? Tears fill her eyes, but I can't bring myself to care. The sight of them, burns into my mind, a betrayal so deep it feels like the floor has been ripped out from under me. The stranger in the bed looks just as shocked as Charlie, both of them scrambling to cover themselves with whatever they can grab. But I'm not even looking at them anymore. My eyes are locked on Laura, the woman I thought I knew, the woman I trusted with my heart, my life. What the hell is this? The words come out jagged and raw, my voice barely recognizable. Anger, disbelief, and heartbreak twist together, choking me. Laura's mouth opens, but no sound comes out. She just stares at me, pale and wide-eyed, like a deer caught in headlights. The silence in the room is suffocating, pressing down on me as if it's trying to crush me into the ground. Brian, it's not what it looks like, she finally stammers, her voice trembling and thin. But even as she says it, her words ring hollow, as if she doesn't believe them any more than I do. Not what it looks like. I repeat, my voice rising with each word, sharp and venomous. There are 2 men in our bed, Laura. Explain to me how this is not what it looks like. She flinches at the word our, and for a fleeting moment, I see something flicker in her eyes, guilt, regret, maybe even shame. But it's too late. That look means nothing to me now. Nothing she says or does will ever erase what I'm staring at right now. I feel my legs start to tremble, my hands shaking uncontrollably. My chest tightens as if it's trying to contain the tidal wave of emotions crashing inside me. I feel sick, physically sick, like I'm going to throw up right there on the floor. Charlie clears his throat, as if trying to speak. Brian, man, we didn't. I roar, snapping my glare toward him. The force of my voice shocks even me. He freezes, shrinking back like a coward, and I turn my attention back to Laura. How could you do this, Laura? I ask, my voice breaking now, raw and desperate. With him? With them? Tears well up in her eyes as she shakes her head, her lips quivering. It was a mistake. I didn't mean for. For what? I cut her off, my voice cold and sharp. For me to find out. Is that it? Her lips move soundlessly, like she's searching for the right thing to say, but nothing comes. And maybe that's because there is nothing. Nothing she can say will make this better. Nothing can undo what I've just seen. I take a step back, the weight of the moment bearing down on me like a freight train. My entire life, my marriage, my love for her, everything we built together, it feels like it's been ripped apart in a single instant. I don't know what to do. My mind is screaming at me to leave, to run, to get as far away from her and this nightmare as possible. But my legs feel like lead, frozen in place. Charlie shifts uncomfortably, and the stranger in the bed, still silent, still nameless, looks down, his face flushed with shame. None of them dare move. None of them dare speak. Finally, I find the strength to back away, the shaking in my hands spreading to my whole body. I can't do this, I whisper, my voice hoarse and trembling. I can't. Without waiting for her to say another word, I turn and walk out of the room. The storm outside is raging now, wind and rain slamming against the windows, but I barely register it. The chaos outside mirrors the chaos in my head, but inside, everything feels eerily silent. I don't stop to grab anything. I just leave. I don't even feel the rain as I step into the night and get into the car, my mind numb and blank as I drive away from the cabin. I don't remember the trip home. It's a blur of headlights and wet roads, my knuckles white against the steering wheel. When I get home, I sit in the car for a long time before finally stepping inside. The house feels cold, lifeless. Every corner of it reminds me of her, of us. But now, every memory feels tainted, every happy moment a lie. The next couple of days pass in a haze. I can't bring myself to cry, to scream, to feel anything. I pack up her things methodically, placing them neatly by the front door. Her clothes, her books, the framed photos of us that used to make me smile, they all go into boxes. By the time she comes back from the cabin, I've already changed the locks. I watch from the window as she steps onto the porch, her face pale and drawn as she notices the suitcase and the envelope waiting for her. She picks up the letter, her hands trembling. In the letter, I lay it all out. The betrayal. The lies. The humiliation. I don't scream in the letter, don't curse or rage. I simply tell her that it's over. That whatever we had is gone. That I've already started the divorce process, and I don't want to see her again. She sits on the steps for a long time, her head in her hands, clutching the letter like it holds all the answers she'll never get. I can't bear to watch her anymore. I turn away from the window and pack up the last of her things, stuffing the remnants of our life together into another box. By the time I return to the window, she's gone. And with her goes the life I thought we had, the love I thought I knew. The divorce went through faster than I expected. No kids, no shared property, no messy court battles, just paperwork and signatures. After everything that had happened, it felt like a relief to have it finalized, though the emotional wounds were still fresh. It was like closing the door on a chapter one didn't want to reread, even as the scars it left behind continued to throb. For the first few weeks, I threw myself into anything that might keep me from thinking about Laura. I worked longer hours, took on projects I normally would have avoided, and even started organizing the house, not because it needed it, but because I couldn't stand sitting still. Anything to avoid the silence, the memories. But no matter how hard I tried, she was always there, lingering in the back of my mind. I couldn't stop replaying that moment in the cabin, over and over, like a cruel loop I couldn't escape. Her face when I opened the door. The panic in her voice. The unmistakable betrayal of seeing her in bed with not one, but two men. It haunted me, filling every quiet moment with a fresh wave of anger and heartbreak. About a month after the divorce was finalized, I heard from some mutual friends. I hadn't reached out much, they didn't know what to say, and I didn't want to hear it. But one evening, I got a call that changed everything. "You heard about Laura, right?" my friend asked, his voice hesitant, like he didn't know if he should even bring it up. I hadn't, and I wasn't sure I wanted to. But curiosity, or maybe some twisted need for closure, made me say, "No, what about her?" That's when I learned about the abortion. Apparently, not long after the divorce, Laura found out she was pregnant. The kicker. She didn't know who the father was. It could have been me. It could have been one of the men from the cabin. Or someone else entirely. The news hit me harder than I expected. I shouldn't have cared, it wasn't my problem anymore. She wasn't my problem. But still, the thought twisted something deep inside me. The idea that it could have been my child, tangled up in the mess she'd made of our lives, made me sick. I'd never even considered the possibility that she could have been pregnant. It was like an extra punch to the gut, a final slap in the face from the person who had already shattered me. But that wasn't the end of it. According to our friends, Laura was falling apart. Her reputation had been obliterated, not just within our circle but across the town. She was no longer the brilliant, composed lawyer everyone admired. Now, people whispered about her in bars and cafes, passing judgment on her choices. "She's a wreck," one mutual friend said, not even bothering to sugarcoat it. "It's like she's on a mission to self-destruct. Drinking too much, showing up to work late, or not at all." Hearing about her downward spiral didn't bring the satisfaction I thought it might. If anything, it made me feel hollow. This wasn't the woman I married. The person they described didn't even resemble the Laura I had fallen in love with years ago. I couldn't recognize her anymore, and I couldn't understand how she had become this version of herself. For a while, I struggled with those feelings. Part of me felt vindicated, she deserved the fallout for what she did. But another part of me, one I wasn't proud of, felt sad for her. No matter how much she hurt me, I couldn't ignore the fact that she was human, and humans break. Still, I never reached out. There was no point. Whatever connection we'd had was gone. I wasn't going to fix her, and I wasn't going to let her drag me back into the chaos. In the weeks after the divorce, I had to face the truth. I was angry, but not just at Laura. I was angry at myself. Angry for missing the signs, for brushing off the little red flags that now seemed so glaring. Every moment I dismissed as harmless felt like a knife twisting in my gut. At first, I tried to outrun the pain. I buried myself in work, stayed up late binging shows, and avoided anything that required me to be alone with my thoughts. But no matter how many distractions I piled on, the hurt found its way back in. Eventually, I realized I needed help. I started seeing a therapist, a decision that felt strange and uncomfortable at first, like admitting I was weak. But as the weeks went on, I began to unpack everything: the betrayal, the anger, the self-doubt. It didn't make the pain go away, but it gave me tools to manage it. And, more importantly, it helped me see that what Laura did wasn't about me, it was about her. I found other outlets, too. Running became my escape, a way to channel the storm inside me into something physical. Each morning, I pushed myself harder, running until my legs burned and my lungs felt like they might burst. It was cathartic, a reminder that I was still strong, still capable of moving forward. Reconnecting with friends was another hurdle. At first, I avoided them out of shame, not wanting to be the guy everyone pitied. But when I finally swallowed my pride, I realized how much I needed their support. They didn't just offer sympathy, they helped me find my laughter again. The healing wasn't linear. There were good days, where I felt like I was moving on, and bad days, where the weight of everything pressed down on me like it had just happened. But with time, I learned to let go, of the anger, of the what-ifs, of the closure I was never going to get. Laura's betrayal had broken me, but it didn't define me. And as I rebuilt my life, piece by piece, I realized something: the scars might never fully fade, but they were a testament to the fact that I had survived. And for the first time in a long time, that felt like enough.